What is up, guys? Top tier Yu-Gi-Oh here, and today we have more Burning Abyss Orcust combos for you guys. And so in this video, I really want to go in depth on some of the various lines of play and how we can sort of turn any kind of 5-card hand into some form of disruption or multiple disruptions. The main ones being Apollousa, Beatrice, and or Orcust combo, which usually is like crescendo and something else. And so how are we going to get into these final boards? How do we play around cards like Nibiru, Super Poly? Or what if we want to make some different plays? What if we want to go into, let's say, Topologic Trisbana to soft lock our opponents? Like, we can summon this in front of their extra monster zone. If they can't play around it, they're going to lose because of that. Or maybe we want to go into IP Masquerena and then link summon into something like a Nightmare Unicorn on their turn. Or we can even go into a Curious, send the Floodgate to the graveyard, and set it back on our field with Nightmare Griffin. These are all plays that we can make in this deck on top of what we normally do. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do it. Alright, so in my version of Burning Abyss Orcust, we really have 3 main starter plays. We have Scorpio, we have Harp, and then we have Cherubini, which is also kind of an extra deck starter card that we can make with any 2 Burning Abyss monsters. These are kind of the bases of all of our combos, and so we can kind of choose one of these lines of play depending on the hand, and then decide where we want to go with it. And any of them can kind of turn into anything else as long as you have enough, other playable cards. So like, you can turn a hand of multiple Burning Abyss cards into an Orcust play, or into an Apollousa play, or whatever you want to do with it. And the same with the others. Like, you can draw a Harp Horror and then some number of Burning Abyss cards and turn that into a Beatrice and an Orcust play. So we're really going to discuss how each of these lines can start and where they can finish, but we're going to start this off with the Orcust plays. Main reason for that is because I really want to define what the Orcust engine does first, because we're going to be using it throughout the rest of this video, and it's going to help us kind of understand without having to show it every single time. We'll just be able to shorthand with saying, like, from here it's a basic Orcust combo, and you guys are going to know what that means. So that's why I want to just kind of go through it first and just cover what they do. Alright, so again, starting off with the Orcust plays, just starting with a Harp Horror, just that. It doesn't really do anything, but we have to add to it in order to make plays, obviously. And so as we add on to our harp, let's kind of see what we can do. And so if we add a Burning Abyss card, we can't summon the Burning Abyss card with the harp. And so one Burning Abyss card plus harp doesn't do anything. But if we have harp and then any kind of extender, it does actually. And so what we would do with just these 2 cards, like a 2-card combo of any other monster that you can even summon with a Harp Horror, is what I would call the basic Orcust combo. And so the way that would work is you would summon your harp, then summon, whatever your extender is. This could be a danger, or it could be a Levianeer. It could be plenty of things. But that's actually another reason why these are my favorite extenders in the deck. And it's another reason why I don't play cards like a Psychic Wielder or like Edge Saber, Sea Archiver. Those are things that don't work with this. Whereas here they do. In like very simplified game states, these work. Well, not Levianeer actually, but dangers, yes. And so what we would do is, again, we'd summon the harp, summon our extender, in this case a danger. We would link both of these away into a Galatea. This is an extra monster zone. I'm not really thinking about zones right now, but obviously you summon the extra monster zone. Zones don't really matter right now. But we're going to activate Harp's effect, so we banish that from the graveyard. That's going to special summon Symbol Skeletons. And now from here, this can kind of go 2 different ways. The standard Orcust play that I think a lot of us are thinking about it from pre-Chaos Impact format would be that we would link both of these away into a Longirsu. Where'd it go? Oh, okay. Link those into a Longirsu, and then we would activate Symbol Skeleton's effect, banish that, revive the Galatea, go into Dingirsu, attach something, activate Galatea's effect, set Crescendo. So that would be one form of the Orcust combo. It's going to end up with Dingirsu protecting our whole board. We have Crescendo, which can negate anything, and then Galatea, which likely can't be destroyed by battle if it's linked to anything, which it should be. But there's something else that we can do with this same combo, and if we kind of go back a couple of steps to when we had Galatea on the board with symbols, now there's something else that we can do now that Chaos Impact is out. So now what we can do is we can overlay the Galatea into Dingirsu here, and now because we have 2 non-link monsters, we can link both of these away into IP Masquerena. And now we can activate Symbol Skeletons effect, banish that, revive the Galatea, and then Galatea can set Crescendo. And so now we actually have two disruptions. We have the disruption from the Crescendo, and then we also have the disruption from IP linking on the opponent's turn, going into something that can kind of disrupt our opponent there, whether that be a Nightmare Phoenix, a Unicorn, a Cerberus, whatever you want to summon in that case. But we have options. And so the Orcust combo actually becomes quite broad from here because we can interact with our opponent in various different ways. And I think kind of the determining factor on which one you want to do just depends on the rest of your board and what you're vulnerable to. Like, it is good to have multiple disruptions, but this field is a lot more susceptible to various things. Or you might lose to a Twin Twister on your Crescendo or MST on the Crescendo because you don't have Dingirsu protecting it anymore. So there are a lot of things that you could potentially lose out to that Dingirsu would normally protect you from. And so they're good in different scenarios. I'll leave it up to you guys to discern which is better. So now let's look at a combination of 2 Burning Abyss monsters and then Harp Horror. So in this hand, I think it's better to start off with the Burning Abyss monsters. So we would special summon both of these, link them into Cherubini, and then with Cherubini's effect, we would send Graff to the graveyard. And then with Graff's effect, we would special summon Seer from the deck to one of Cherubini's link points. And this is also the same combo that I did in the other combo video, like the shorter one, but I'm just going to reiterate it here. So then what we would do from here is we would normal summon Harp Horror, and then we would link all 4 of these away into Apollousa. Seer's effect will trigger. We can special summon Cherubini from the graveyard. Next we activate Harp Horror. Banish that to special summon Symbol Skeletons. Symbol and Cherubini can go into Galatea. And now we can activate Galatea's effect to set the Crescendo. And so this board ends on 3 Apollousa negates, and then Crescendo with, an Omni negate. So we have 4 negations, and this was only a 3-card combo. That was actually pretty simple. And now if we have any other extender, so let's say we have, a danger monster now, we could also extend from here to continue to do a full Orcust board. So again, we could either overlay Dingirsu here, and then go into IP Masquerena, and then use symbols to revive the Galatea and set the Crescendo. Or we could go into Longirsu, then Dingirsu, and then revive the Galatea and end on Dingirsu, Galatea Crescendo. And again, both have their pros and cons. It's just kind of choosing between that extra disruption or the protection that you get from Dingirsu. But, either way, pretty strong combo. But let's actually go back a couple of steps, because in the last video I mentioned that it plays around Nibiru. Let's actually see why. Let's see what happens if they do Nibiru us on our 5th summon. And so if we go back a couple of steps to when we had Cherubini, Seer, and summon the Harp. Summoning the Harp is our 5th summon because we had the 2 Burning Abyss monsters, Cherubini is 3, and then Seer is 4, Harp is 5. What if our opponent Nibiru's us here? How do we play through that? And so, let's say they tribute all of our monsters, and then we get hit with the... That was a meteor sound. But yeah. But I mean, we don't get the Nibiru, we get the token, but this is going to illustrate the point. But regardless, they tribute our whole board, and then we get Seer's effect to revive Cherubini, and we still have Harp in graveyard. So we activate Harp Horror's effect, banishing that to summon the Symbol Skeletons, and then Symbols and... I guess it doesn't really matter which one. Or I guess it has to be an effect monster to go into Galatea. That's actually important. But we can summon Galatea here. And they really just kind of go into our Orcust board from this point. Here I actually think the IP Masquerena play is better because we need effect monsters for our Orcust Link monsters. They have to be effect monsters, and so having that token makes it really hard to do that. But IP Masquerena doesn't require effect monsters, so we can link that away. And so what I would do here is go into a Dingirsu on the Galatea, and then we can link away the token. I should have gotten the actual token instead of using the Nibiru here. But we can link away the token and then Dingirsu for IP Masquerina, activate Skeletons, revive the Galatea, and then set the Crescendo. And so even though our opponent Nibiru'd us, we still end on multiple disruptions. We still have 2 interactions on their turn. And so they're down a card, and then we have 2 disruptions. And so even if they do Nibiru us here, we're good. And so that's one thing that I like about this deck. You can play around Nibiru by making Apollousa, but even if they do Nibiru you there, it usually doesn't turn out too well for them. You still end up on multiple disruptions. So, extremely powerful. That's a good thing about the Burning Abyss engine. Like, Seer lets you play around so many things so well. Hey guys, quick little interruption. If you guys are enjoying this video and enjoying playing Burning Abyss Orcust, hope you guys are finding value in this video. But if you guys are, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. Buttons for that are down here somewhere. Please go ahead and do that. If you guys are interested in more combos, like I'm sure you are if you're watching this video, but you want to see like the nut boards like Apollousa, Beatrice, Galatea, Crescendo, Dingirsu, like keep watching. Like the combos are coming and they're getting better. So please stick around. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you. Just keep watching. Alright, bye. This next combo is going to be if we have 3 Burning Abyss monsters and a Harp Horror. So this one starts very similar to the last one. Usually when we have multiple Burning Abyss monsters, we're going to start them the exact same way. And that's going to be by summoning 2 of them, going into Cherubini. Cherubini will be dumping Graff to the graveyard. Graff's effect will special summon Seer. Now from here in this combo, we have a couple of different options. And so one, we could go into Beatrice like this, so we could special summon or normal summon the other Burning Abyss, or special summon. We're going to special summon it. Doesn't matter. Overlay into a Dante. Normal summon the Harp. Yeah, we definitely have to special summon the other Burning Abyss monster. But normal summon the Harp. And then we could use Dante's effect if we want. We don't really have to, but if we want to, we can. And then from here, we go into Apollousa. Then we can activate Seer's effect targeting Dante. Dante adding back any Burning Abyss in the graveyard. Then we can discard that Burning Abyss monster to make Beatrice. And so this could end in Apollousa Beatrice, which would be a good way to play around something like Nibiru if we're trying to play around Nibiru. It also plays around Super Poly if we're playing against a deck that we feel might have Super Poly, or if we wanted to play around that. And that's the good thing about this board or this play really, is that it plays around the main cards that really could break your board, like the singular cards that could ruin your game. This board plays around it, so it's really safe, and it still has 4 disruptions, which is nothing to sneeze at. Plus, you have the Harp in your graveyard set up for your next turn. You have Dante adding something back, which could add back the Seer, which could get you something. So there's a lot of different ways that you can follow up on your next turn as well. This is honestly one of the plays that I make the most often, but this isn't the only play that you can make with that same hand. And so let's actually go back a little bit. So we started with 3 Burning Abyss monsters and Harp. The first 2 Burning Abyss monsters went into Cherubini and Seer. But now what we can do with the other 2, or with the last 2 cards, is instead of going into Dante and then Beatrice, into Apollousa Beatrice, we can still go into Apollousa, which is going to protect us from cards like Nibiru and other hand traps, but we can also turn this into an Orcust board instead. And so we could special summon the other Burning Abyss monster, and then link these 3 monsters into Apollousa. Then Seer's effect will revive the Cherubini, of course. And now we can just normal summon Harp Horror and not have to worry about any hand trap stopping us as we do this. And then from here we have our full Orcust board. So we can link these away into Galatea, and Harp can summon symbols, and then like full Orcust play from here. And so that's another route that we can go that actually maybe ends us on a better board, simply because Crescendo is generally superior to a Beatrice interaction. And then we also still have maybe the Dingirsu, or maybe we have IP Masquerina and something else. So this really gives us a lot of options as well. But again, the downside is we're not playing around Super Poly, because we'd end up on the board full of darks. And so again, this kind of comes into the ups and downs of how we want to play this deck, and where the skill really comes in determining what we want to play around and how we want to do that. But now let's look at another combo if we had an extender instead of that 3rd Burning Abyss card. So now I want to look at what we can do if we have the same combo, 2 Burning Abyss monsters, But then instead of the third Burning Abyss monster, we have an extender, plus the Harp Horror, of course. And so starting from the same point, those 2 Burning Abyss monsters turn into Cherubini plus Seer. But then from here, if the extender is level 3, then we can still do the same thing and go into Apollousa Beatrice. It doesn't matter if it's not level 3, we can still, just summon this monster and then do Apollousa Orcust combo. That's still a play as well. But what we can also do, and something that's kind of unique to it being an extender, is we can also do the Curious Griffin play. And so for that, what we would do is we would summon one of them. It doesn't really matter which, actually, because they're both going to allow us to go into Curious. So we would summon one of them, link into Curious. We would activate Curious's effect. We would dump, any floodgate that we want, like, let's say Imperial Order. So we could dump Imperial Order to the graveyard, and Seer's going to revive Cherubini. It's important that Seer revives Cherubini and you summon it to the zone that is directly below one of your extra monster zones. This is very important because when we summon the Griffin, Griffin has to be linked in order to use the effect. If it is not linked, then we can't do it. So we need this on board. So next what we'll do is we'll summon whatever the other monster is. And so that's why I say it didn't matter the sequencing there. Like, we could have summoned the Harp and gone into Curious with the Harp, or we could have gone into it with the Danger. It doesn't matter because they're both just going to be summoned. They're both just going to be linked with. Either way. So then from here, we link the Curious and the Harp into Griffin. And we still would have more cards in hand, remember, because the combo for this was 2 BAs, Extender, Harp. So we have a 5th card in hand that we would discard. And that's going to allow us to set our Imperial Order. And now from, trying to get it all in the frame. This looks weird though. But now from here, we have the option of just keeping Griffin on board if we wanted to just, mess with our opponents. Or we could link it away for an Orcust combo, because we do have Harp. So we could also just banish the Harp from the graveyard. Symbol skeletons. Link for the symbols and Cherubini into Galatea. And Galatea can set Crescendo. So we could end here if we wanted to where we have Crescendo plus a Floodgate and Galatea and Nightmare Griffin cutting off our opponent's plays, or cutting off their special summoned monsters effects. But if the format doesn't really lead to Griffin being very good, like sometimes Griffin's good, sometimes it's not. Like, if you look at some of the top decks right now, I don't think Griffin is really that big of an issue, simply because it gives your opponent a zone in this case, and so they could always summon to that zone. But even if they don't, you look at something like Salamangrates, all of their monsters are usually linked. And so you're not really stopping their Sunlight Wolves, their Stalios, or anything. I mean, these will, but Griffin's not. And so Griffin isn't super important in my opinion, at least not right now, but sometimes it will be depending on the format. So if you determine that it's not important, we could link both of these into a long Girsu, and then we could Dingirsu it, and then use symbols to revive Galatea, and then still have this board, which is still, whatever Floodgate you want, plus Crescendo, but now we also have Dingirsu protecting it. So we wouldn't have to, like, negate a Twin Twister or something. We could just, detach for it. So this is also very powerful if there was something that you wanted to set, or, like, in my build I wasn't playing Imperial Order, but I was playing Eradicator. And so it doesn't have to just be a Floodgate. It could be anything that would be really valuable. And so it could be a Floodgate, it could be Eradicator, which really knocks out a lot of decks right now. It could also be something like Instant Fusion. Like, we could have set an Instant Fusion with this effect. That's something that's in the main deck even. So we could set an Instant Fusion, and then when we're at this point in the combo, we can Instant Fusion for, where is it? For Winda. Then summon Dingirsu. It then have the Dingirsu protect the Winda in the end phase. And so then we would have, Crescendo, Winda, and, the monsters. And so there's a lot of ways that we can utilize this combo, both in the main deck with cards like Instant Fusion, or with our sided cards like maybe Imperial Order, or maybe Eradicator, or whatever else you think would be a good Floodgate. Alright, so for this combo, we're going to have 3 Burning Abyss monsters, 1 Extender, and then Harp Horror. This is going to end on Apollousa, Beatrice, and then Galatea and Crescendo. It's going to play around Nibiru and play around Super Poly, while also giving us like 5 negates or something. And so let's go ahead and get into that one. And it's going to start off the same as every other combo with Burning Abyss cards, any two of them are going to be special summoned. They're going to be turned into a Cherubini. Cherubini dump Graff. Graff special summon Seer. That's where all of these combos start. And then because we're going to be trying to end on a Beatrice, we're going to also make a Beatrice using the other Burning Abyss monster. Then from here, what we would do is normal summon the Harp Horror. And then we would link all of these away into Apollousa. Then Seer's effect will target Dante. Dante will add, any of the Burning Abyss monsters back, which we would discard to make the Beatrice. Now from here, we summon the Extender, and then activate Harp's effect to special summon Symbol Skeletons. And then we would link both of these away into Galatea, which can set the Crescendo. So in my opinion, this is probably the best board that we can make, starting with just a Harp Horror plus, some number of Burning Abyss monsters and or extenders. Because again, this plays around the Nibiru because we're making the Apollousa very early. We're still ending on Beatrice and Galatea and Crescendo, so we're playing around Super Poly. Oh, that's not why we're playing around Super Poly. We're playing around Super Poly because we have a light, a dark, and a wind. And so there's no fusion that's commonly played that uses those materials. And then we have so many different interactions. I mean, 3 Apollousa negates, the Beatrice interaction, and then the Crescendo. We can set up a follow-up play with either the Crescendo or the Beatrice. This field is just incredibly hard to get around. Like, if this happens, you probably win the game. Like, outside of Sphere Mode, which nobody plays, I can't see how you lose a game in nearly any matchup with this. However, there is a different way that we could play this hand out, to where instead of the Beatrice, we would be ending on Cherubini plus IP Masquerena. Ending on Cherubini is actually not terrible because it gives you like a guaranteed way to play on your next turn. Like, it's very difficult to deal with because of its own protection, but also if it survives, you can just like dump a Farfa, banish your opponent's monster, or dump a Calcab, dump their back, or bounce their back row. And then that plus an IP Masquerena gives you access to like an easy link 4 on your opponent's turn, or a link 3 or a link 2, whatever you want to summon on your opponent's turn, you can do it. And so that's also a way that we could play this hand out. And if we wanted to do that, this is how it would go. So there's also another way that we can play this hand out, and where it differs is after we've summoned Apollousa and Seer's revived Dante, Dante's added back Seer, then we still have the Extender in our hand. What we can do from this point actually is still summon the Extender, and then still use Harp's effect, banish it from the graveyard, special summon Symbol Skeletons, but then we can link into Galatea, then we can overlay our Dingirsu. And now again, because we have 2 non-link monsters, we can go into our IP Masquerena from here. And also Dingirsu would attach, your Harp, but that goes without saying. We would link both of these away into IP Masquerena though. And then with the Dante's effect, we have different options of what we would want to add back to our hand. We could add a Burning Abyss monster so that on our next turn we have Seer and another Burning Abyss monster, 2 BA monsters as a starter, and so this could be a way to set up for next turn. Or we can actually add back the Cherubini to our extra deck, that way we have it for next turn to kind of go off with our Seer. Or we can just add back any Burning Abyss monster that we might want to trigger, and so we could add back the Graff that we sent. So in our hand we would have Graff and Seer, giving us access to every BA monster in the graveyard, including Dante and Cherubini, or we'd have access to any Burning Abyss monster in our deck via the Graff. And so we have a couple of different options there, which make this a pretty cool combo, because we can also obviously link into a Nightmare on the opponent's turn, discard either one of them to get either effect that we were kind of looking for in that scenario. So then from here, we could banish skeletons from the graveyard, summon the Galatea, use the Galatea effect to have the Crescendo. And so this board is one that I think is of a similar caliber to the other one. It's pretty much the exact same, but just having IP Masquerena and extra Burning Abyss cards in your hand instead of the Beatrice. But what this does is lets you kind of play through non-monster boards a little bit better, because Beatrice doesn't do very much against back row decks or against slower paced decks, but this board does. And so this would allow us to we're playing against a back row deck, we could link both of these into a Nightmare Phoenix, pop a back row. If it's co-linked, we can draw because we can co-link it with the Apollousa. So we can let's say negate a card, and then link these two into a Phoenix, pop a back row, draw a card, discard a Graff, Graff get cow cab, that also get rid of another back row. And so that deals with like multiple cards, plus still having Apollousa negates. Or we could discard a Steer and then bring back a Dante. Or, there's so many different things that we can do with this hand that make it, just pretty versatile, really. And of course, we've already covered how we can do Apollousa plus full Orcust combo. And so it's interesting how, like, just starting with some number of Burning Abyss cards and an extender and the Harp Horror, we can kind of go into Burning Abyss plays. We can go into Apollousa. We can go into our Orcust plays. Or we can do IP Masquerena. So we have all of these, or Curious Griffin. So we have so many options that we can do just stemming from this one line of play. It just depends on how we want to play it and what we want to play around. And now the final play that we can really do with what sort of this line is where we have Harp Horror, Burning Abyss cards, and Scorpio. Now this play is insane, but I'm not sure if I want to do this combo now at the end of all the Harp combos, or maybe I'll do it with the other Scorpio combos. Let's maybe save this combo for later, but it's pretty insane. We're going to be ending on like Beatrice, full Orcust combo, and Apollousa. So we're ending on like all the big disruptions, or we can even there's just so much we could do, but that's probably the best way to play it. But yeah, we'll do that later. So from here, we're going to actually go into the, let's do the Burning Abyss plays, just like with the basic Burning Abyss cards. And, sometimes we'll add extenders on top of that. Alright, so moving into the Burning Abyss plays, these are going to be the ones that probably require the most cards to get value out of them, simply because a single Burning Abyss card doesn't do anything, and then even two Burning Abyss cards, it's very hard to kind of get a good play out of that. Like, the best you could do if you just have two random BAs is to overlay them, make a Dante, activate the effect, and pray you hit like a Harp Horror or something. Like, pray you hit something good. Oh, wow. I didn't actually expect to hit a Harp Horror, but that's kind of, that's actually really good. But that's kind of the best you could do. Like, maybe you hit a Harp, and then you do like an Orcust play. Like, this would be a full Orcust play. That's actually pretty cool. That was really lucky, but that's like generally the best you can do with two random Burning Abyss cards. I can't believe I actually hit that. I totally didn't expect that to happen. But what you can do if you have two Burning Abyss cards where one of them is a Graff or a Fiendish Rhino Warrior, then that hand suddenly gets a little bit more playable. And so if this was our hand, then what we could do with this is to normal summon the Graff, special summon the Cagna, or whatever it is, and then go into a Dante. And then here we're not so dependent on the mill. Like, it doesn't matter what we mill in this case. So like whatever we mill is not important. We can mill one card, we can mill three cards. The important thing is triggering the Graff. And so we'd activate Dante's effect, and that's actually pretty good. Okay, the Gizmek's good, but the dangers are not good. But we would activate Graff's effect, and then Graff would special summon Seer from the deck. So now we have two non-linked monsters. We can go ahead and go into an IP Masquerena. Next, Dante and Seer will trigger. Seer will special summon Dante. Dante will add back any of your Burning Abyss monsters back to your hand. And then you will send that Burning Abyss card to the graveyard, and then make your Beatrice. And then this could be the end board. If you just have either Graff or Rhino Warrior and any other Burning Abyss card monster, and that's it, like you have no extenders, you have nothing else, this is the bare bones play, and it's actually not that bad. I mean, you got a Beatrice disruption, you got an IP disruption. I mean, I'm assuming you got a handful of bricks, so you got some discards for a unicorn on your opponent's turn, or whatever else you want to make with IP Masquerena. So we have two disruptions, and we still have Dante adding back Seer as well, so this ain't bad. This is kind of like your bare minimum, bare bones Burning Abyss play. So now let's look at if we have three Burning Abyss monsters, what this can do for us. And so here I think there are actually two different lines of play. On a very basic level, we could just, make a really high value Beatrice. Hopefully there are better cards that we're making it with rather than Cagna and Barbar, but if like one of them is a Farfa or an Alec, we can make it like a really high value Beatrice. Like, very simply, just summon two of them, make a Dante, make a Beatrice, hope to revolve a Scarm, search a tour guide for next turn, and call it a day. We're going to have one disruption. We're not losing to Nibiru, not losing to Super Poly. and we strike the fear of Dante and Beatrice into their hearts. And so this is like what we could do on like a very basic level of 3 Burning Abyss monsters if we were afraid of, any sort of disruption, because nothing really interacts with this. This doesn't lose to anything like the other combo did when we went IP Masquerina and then Beatrice. Like, that play loses really, really hard to Ash Blossom on the Graff, but this really doesn't have that issue. There's really nothing that interacts with it, and so this is one way we could take it. Or we could do what we've been doing in kind of the rest of the video and using the first 2 Burning Abyss monsters to go into Cherubini, and then Cherubini can dump Graff, Graff can summon Seer, and then from here we could summon the other Burning Abyss monster, and then we could do the same thing as before, as we can make a Dante and try to mill something, or we can another play that we could do actually is we can link both of these into any link to dark monster. It could be IP Masquerina, or it could be like a barricade blocker. It just matters that it's a dark monster that's not a fiend or a fairy. Have Seer revive one of your other Burning Abyss cards, and then we link all 3 of them into a Curious, and then Curious can dump Harp to the graveyard. We could banish Harp to summon Symbol Skeletons, and then Symbols can go into Galatea and set Crescendo. So this isn't the best play in my opinion. Like, you usually don't want to turn 3 cards into 1 disruption. That's pretty inefficient, but this does kind of serve as a basis as how we generally would turn Burning Abyss cards into Orcust cards, via making that random link to whether it be IP or barricade blocker, and then dumping our cards with Curious. And so even though this combo isn't super viable, it is sort of the backbone of other combos. So let's go ahead and get into those other combos. Oh, I do actually want to look at that last combo again, but if we have Rhino Warrior instead of one of the Burning Abyss cards, that does actually change things. And also if we play Sea Archiver, and just Sea Archiver, not Edge Imp Sabers, that card is not playable. But in this version of the combo, we can actually do a full Orcust board. And so what we would do for that is we would we would summon 2 of them first, then link them into a Cherubini. And now Rhino Warriors in this case is going to be what's dumping Graff to the graveyard, and then special summoning the Seer. Next we would summon our other Burning Abyss monster. Oh, no, we don't summon the Burning Abyss monster. First we activate Cherubini's effect, Cherubini's going to send Sea Archiver to the graveyard. Then we summon the Burning Abyss monster. Then Sea Archiver can revive or special summon itself from the graveyard. And then from here, we can actually go into the full combo. So we would link both of these away, and it's going to be banished, but that's fine. But we would go into a Barricade board blocker. Now we can link all 3 of these into Curious. And then we activate Curious effect, chain link 1, Seer chain link 2, reviving the Cherubini. Curious will dump Harp special summon Symbols, and then from here, full Orcust combo. Like link into Galatea, and then into Longirsu, Dingirsu, revive it. Same Orcust plays, but again, if we have Sea Archiver in the deck, and we're starting with a Rhino Warrior, it actually becomes possible with that hand. It's also possible if we just have the 2 Burning Abyss monsters, and then any other extender. And so the same thing would work to where if we have these 2, we would summon them, go into Cherubini, and then dump Graff, summon Seer, and then any other extender. We just summon it, and now we have that 3rd monster to go into the Curious. Into the same play from here. And so if we have 3 Burning Abyss monsters, like having to go into the Barricade blocker keeps us from doing the and so if we have 3 Burning and so if we start with 3 Burning Abyss monsters, this play isn't very good because we have to go into Barricade blocker, that wastes the material just to go into the Curious. But if we're starting with a Rhino Warrior and we play Sea Archiver, or if we have any other extender, then this play actually gets a lot more better because we have more options and we're able to do the full combo, not just ending on Galatea Crescendo. Alright, so for the final 3-card Burning Abyss combo, we're going to be ending on Beatrice plus Topologic Trisbane in front of the opponent's extra monster zone, which is going to banish any monster that they summon there. So it makes kind of a soft lock to where whatever they summon in the extra monster zone, any extra deck monster they summon, it's going to be banished, and it's really hard for a lot of decks to play through. Decks like Salamangreat and Orcust really don't have very much of an out to it. aside from Cerberus. But if they're making a Cerberus to deal with this and still have to deal with the Beatrice, you're in a very good position. And so this combo is really, really strong, but unfortunately you need very specific cards in order to do it. So before, a lot of the combos would just be any Burning Abyss card, but this one requires specific ones. And so for that, we're going to need Farfa or Seer plus Graff or Rhino Warrior, and then any Burning Abyss monster. And so for the sake of the combo, let's say we open up with, let's say we have Seer, Rhino Warrior. No, we'll do the most common scenario, which is not Seer and Rhino Warrior. It's really Farfa, Rhino Warrior, and BA. Because you probably play, more than one Rhino Warrior, which is more Seers than you have, and you probably play more than one Farfa. Like, you play both of these at more than one, but you only play one Seer, one Graff, so like both of these are more likely to draw than those. And so this is the most common version of the combo that you'll end up doing, but it does work if you have those as well. And so let's go ahead and get into it. So first thing we do is we normal summon the Rhino Warrior, special summon the other Burning Abyss monster, the not Farfa one, and then we link both of these into a Cherubini. And now Rhino Warrior's effect will activate. We're going to be dumping Graff to special summon Seer. Really similar so far, but it is actually different. Next, we're going to activate Cherubini's effect. Cherubini will send Libic to the graveyard, and then Libic special summons Farfa. And so this is kind of the key point of the combo. We want to be able to get Seer and Farfa on the board, but without using either of their effects. That's why it's important to draw one of them so that Libic can summon the other one, so we can still use the effect later on in the combo. So we overlay those for Dante, and then link the Dante and the Cherubini into Topologic Trisbana. So now we're going to activate Dante at Chainlink 1, targeting anything, because we're just going to make a Beatrice with it later on. And then we have Seer at Chainlink 2, targeting the Dante, and then Farfa at Chainlink 3, targeting the Trisbana. And the reason we want to do this is because banishing the Trisbana allows us to still summon our monsters without getting them banished by Trisbana's effect, and also allows us to bring it back to the field at the end of the turn wherever we want it on our side of the field. And so we can put it right in front of the opponent's main monster zone. But we also need the Farfa to be Chainlink 3 because we want this to be banished before we summon the Dante. That's very important, so don't mess up your chain links here. So chain resolves backwards, Trisbana gets banished, Dante is summoned, and something is added back to your hand, then immediately discarded again, so that we can make Beatrice in one extra monster zone. Then at the end of the turn, Trisbana comes back, we put it in front of the other extra monster zone. So again, this forms kind of a soft lock to where our opponent's going to have a real tough time playing through this if they play any sort of extra deck based strategy. So this is definitely one of my favorite Burning Abyss combos, and doesn't even really use Orcust cards at all, but I felt that I would throw it in here. Even though Trisbana isn't in my deck, like if you guys saw the deck profile, I don't play Topologic Trisbana, it's something that I would play in a pure Burning Abyss deck. So this is kind of more of a pure Burning Abyss combo that we still can do in an Orcust deck as well. So I did think that it's a good thing to include here. And now if we were doing it a little bit differently, like this was with the most common version of it, if we started off with, let's say, Graff, Seer, any other Burning Abyss monster, it would work very similarly to where we would normal summon Graff, special summon the other monster, link these into a Cherubini. Graff would just summon Seer, Cherubini would dump the Libic, and then special summon, Graff would summon the Farfa since we started off with the Seer in our hand. Graff would summon Farfa. Yeah, here it is. We'll summon the Farfa, then Cherubini dump Libic, summon the Seer, and then from here we're at the same place. So make Dante and then same thing. Moving into the 4 monster Burning Abyss combos. This one's actually going to be very similar to some previous ones. We're going to be just making Apollousa Beatrice to once again make a very safe board with 4 negates that plays around Super Poly, plays around Nibiru. You guys have seen this one before, but I'm just going to show you one more time with, Burning Abyss cards instead of, other stuff. So we start off by summoning 2 of them, making the Cherubini. We're going to do this pretty quickly too. But making Cherubini, dump Graff, summon Seer, summon the other Burning Abyss monster, make Dante, summon the final Burning Abyss monster, link all of them into Apollousa, Seer revive Dante, Dante add something back, discard it, and make a Beatrice. So that is just same play you've seen before, but you can also do it with 4 Burning Abyss monsters. Now another play that you can do with 4 Burning Abyss monsters is a full Orcust board, which is also really similar to the basic one, but slightly different because we're not forced to make the barricade blocker using the Seer. And so, let's see, 4 BAs starts off the exact same way. We summon 2 of them. Those are going to go into Cherubini, which will dump Graff, and then summon Seer. Next, we'll summon the other 2 Burning Abyss monsters. And this one doesn't play around Nibiru very well, because if we get Nibiru'd here, we would be in a very bad position. But we summon the other 2 monsters, and these can now go into the barricade blocker. So now we don't have to use the Seer for it. Or the IP Masquerena, because I saw this quicker than I saw the barricade blocker. It just has to be a dark monster. IP Masquerena is a Cybers type, not a Fiend type. So that's something to keep in mind. Next, we link these into a Curious. Seer revive Cherubini, Curious dump Harp. And again, same play you guys have seen before, but you can do it with all Burning Abyss cards now. And so that really just sums up, the 4 monster Burning Abyss plays. Now another 4 monster combo that we have if we have 2 Burning Abyss monsters and 2 extenders is we can also go into the Curious Griffin play. And I think we did this one earlier actually, but so I'm not gonna do it again, but this is something that we can do. And now before we did it when we had Harp Horror, which allowed us to end on like Curious Griffin, plus an Orcust play. So I think what we ended on was like, not the Curious and the Griffin, but we ended on like Dingirsu, Galatea, and then the set Floodgate, and then Crescendo. Here, because we don't have the Harp, we're not going to be able to get into the Orcust boards, but we are still able to end on whatever Floodgate we like, plus Griffin and Cherubini, which is still not terrible, but clearly not as good as having the Crescendo to back it up as well. And so for that play, again, I guess I'll do it really quickly. Don't want to waste too much time on something you guys have seen, but you summon the 2 Burning Abyss monsters, and since our extenders are not normal summons, we can normal summon the Scarm, get a Scarm search in the end phase, that's cool. But some of those 2 monsters go into Cherubini, Cherubini dump Graff, Graff summon Seer, summon an extender, and then these 3 will go into a Curious. Curious will revive the Cherubini, Seer will revive the Cherubini, Curious will dump our Floodgate. Oh, and we definitely want to revive the Cherubini under the Curious, or under an extra monster zone. Summon the other extender. Link these into a Griffin. Griffin will but set from the graveyard whatever our Floodgate was. And so again, the ability to set any Floodgate or any sided card that we want, really powerful. It just depends on what cards you have that you would want to summon. Now with the Orcust board, it was a lot easier because we could set a card like Eradicator, and we'd have something to tribute for Eradicator. But on this board, we don't. And so we have to, it pretty much has to be like a real Floodgate. We also don't have Dingirsu, so we won't be able to set, an instant fusion and summon a Winda. So this board, you really actually need a Floodgate. Versus the other one, it could have been, anything. Like there were even main deck applications for it. But regardless of how you want to use this play, we do have the option of doing Curious Griffin combos in Burning Abyss, as long as you have some extenders as well. And if you notice, one of them needed to be dark, but the final extender could have been anything. Like this could have been, this could have been a Psychic Tracker or a Psychic Wielder, Sea Archiver, no, it can't be Edgemp Sabers, because Edgemp Sabers, you have to put a card from your hand back on top of your deck, so it can't be that. And Sea Archiver also summons itself from hand, which is better than Edgemps. Edgemps is just bad, but this could have been, any extender. It didn't have to be a danger. It didn't have to be dark or any special typing or anything. One of them does, but not both of them. Alright, so moving into the 5 monster Burning Abyss combos, I really find there to be a lot of overlap with the others at this point, but there are a couple of unique plays. I also find that more than 3 Burning Abyss monsters in your hand really doesn't add any appreciable difference, but you still want to have multiple summons. And so that's why I'm going to be focusing on having only 3 Burning Abyss monsters. I'm not going to be doing a 5 Burning Abyss monster hand, because 1, that's improbable, and 2, it's honestly not very good because of the restriction on the Burning Abyss monsters. So you'd have to pretty much leave Cherubini on board most of the time, which is not very easy. And so we're going to be focusing on having some extenders as well. And so in this hand, I want to show you guys how you can do Apollousa plus not a full Orcust combo, but at least be ending on Galatea Crescendo. But it starts the same way as a lot of the other combos. Summon 2 Burning Abyss monsters. You can normal summon this Karma if we want that in-phase search. Don't forget it. Go into Cherubini. Cherubini will dump Graff. Graff will summon Seer. Then we will summon the other Burning Abyss card. And then we can link these all away into Apollousa. Seer can revive the Cherubini. Now we can summon both of our extenders. And then link these into a Curious. Curious can dump Harp. Harp can use the effect, special summon Symbols. Symbols can go into the Galatea. And then Galatea will set Crescendo. And so that's just very quickly how we can turn 3 Burning Abyss monsters, 2 extenders into Apollousa, Galatea, Crescendo. Good thing about this is, again, it plays around Nibiru because we're making the Apollousa so early. It also plays around Galatea. Or, not plays around Galatea, plays around Super Poly. So again, we're playing around like the 2 main things that will like ruin our lives. And so, pretty good combo. It's something to kind of just keep in the back of your head if you do want to kind of get into your Orcust plays. But you also want to, play around some stuff too. Now we could also end on a Beatrice instead of the Apollousa, which again plays around Super Poly, but doesn't play around the Nibiru as well because we don't have Apollousa to negate it, if they have it, that is. But to do that, let's kind of run it back a little bit to when we had the Cherubini on board, still have our 2 extenders, and then we have Seer and the other Burning Abyss monster. So yeah, if we go back to when we had Cherubini and Seer on board, then we have 2 extenders and other Burning Abyss in hand. Again, if we want to end on just Beatrice and an Orcust play, then what we could do is special summon the Burning Abyss monster, go into the Dante. Again, if we want to summon Beatrice, we got to make Dante first usually. And then we would summon an extender. And then we would link the extender and then the Dante into our generic Dark Link too. It could be Barricade Borg, or it could be IP Masquerina. But then regardless of what we're going to use, Dante's going to activate, Seer's going to activate, and then we're going to be using those to make Beatrice. Then we could summon the other extender, and then link the other extender, Cherubini, and IP Masquerina into Curious. Curious can dump Harp Horror, and then from here, we have Harp, another monster. We're going to be able to get into our Orcust board. This would be important if we didn't really value Apollousa that much. Like, the Apollousa play is definitely better, but not in all matchups. So if you were playing against a deck that doesn't rely on monsters as much, Apollousa can sometimes just be worthless, and we would want something with a little bit more recursion, something that can also deal with back row, and something that, in a lot of cases, is going to be bigger. Because, Apollousa is only going to be at 24. This is at 25, which isn't a huge difference. But once we resolve Apollousa's effect, it might be at 16 or even 800. And so having a monster with a body is actually pretty relevant. But next, let's actually get into one of the more unique combos in this deck. One that I definitely haven't done so far. Alright, so for this combo, we're going to be ending on Cherubini, IP Masquerina, and Graff, and Galatea Crescendo. So this is definitely a unique board. It's different from all the other ones, but it really takes advantage of IP Masquerina more than any other combo in this deck. Like, it isn't just simply ending on another monster, but also we're leaving the Graff up as well, which gives us even more options for disruption on the opponent's turn. So I think this is an excellent combo to sort of show some creativity that you can do within your plays. And so for this one, starts off the same way, so this part's not creative. Summon the 2 Burning Abyss monsters, link them away into Cherubini, Cherubini dump Graff, Graff summon Seer. That part is obvious. Then we summon the other Burning Abyss monster. Then we also summon the 2 extenders. So we're going all in right now. Hopefully the opponent doesn't have a Nibiru. This is what you do when you think they don't, or you're sure they don't. And so now what we're going to actually do is make a Curious using both the extenders. So they ideally are not the same extender or something, because we need 3 different types, all dark attribute, to do this. So hopefully you have the right extenders for that. But what we would do from there is go into the Curious. Curious will dump Harp to the graveyard. Harp will activate the effect, special summoning the Symbols. Symbols and Curious we'll go into Galatea. Next, we will summon our Dingirsu. Dingirsu and Seer will be linked into IP Masquerena. Seer's effect will activate. We're going to special summon once again, the Graff from the graveyard. And then we can activate Symbol Skeleton's effect to revive the Galatea. And then use Galatea's effect to set the crescendo. So again, this is a pretty cool board in my opinion. Don't place them on the field like this because you'll get wrecked by a Mech Knight, or you'll have to at least force a negate on it, which is not cool. But this combo is really, really interesting to me because you have Cherubini protecting two of your cards on board, and then you also have, of course, the Crescendo. You have IP Masquerena, which has so many options at this point because you have so many different monsters on the board. Like you could summon a Unicorn, and then get rid of one card your opponent has. Then Graff, because if you link with the Cherubini, that will destroy the Graff, or you could link with the Graff itself and then dump, anything to the graveyard. You could dump maybe, or not dump, but you would summon it and then it would get destroyed. But you could summon a Farfa or a Calcab, an Alec, however you want to do things. But I just think it's super interesting that you can end on this board like this with, 1, 2, 3 disruptions potentially, as well as having that protection from the Cherubini. So if you were to link summon something in one of Cherubini's link points with IP Masquerena, it would have like double protection from destruction. So it'd be pretty tough to get rid of. And then of course, Cherubini itself is difficult to deal with because of its own protection effect. And so if that stays on the board, it's going to help you break your opponent's board on that next turn by dumping again your Farfas, your Calcabs, your Alex, negating whatever your opponent's ending on dealing with their board, and you still have the Crescendo to follow up with. Plus, if your Graff is summoning a Scarm, you could search a Tour Guide. That could be your follow-up for next turn. So you have a lot of different options actually, plus some disruptions. So this is a pretty cool ending board in my opinion. Like it's a fun ending board. But this is it for the Burning Abyss engine. Next we're going to move into the Predaplant combos. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into some of the Predaplant Scorpio combos. Scorpio is again one of the most powerful starters in the deck, simply because it's the only one that gives you so many different or I shouldn't say so many different summons, but you're getting so many summons. So like, it's kind of like a tour guide to where just summoning itself gets you more than one monster on the board, which really helps extend your plays. And so in the most basic scenario, you're going to have, Scorpio and then one other monster. Ideally, it's a Scarm. That's probably the best, or aside from a Harp, one of the Scarm is the best Burning Abyss that you could probably discard in this scenario. And so what you can do with essentially just one Scorpio, doesn't even really matter what the other card is you can go into a full Orcust combo just like that. So this is a 1-card Orcust combo, which is insane. It's one of the reasons why I play it in this deck. There's so much synergy. But you would normal summon the Scorpio, activate the effect, and then that's going to allow you to summon your Cobra. Cobra's effect will search Instant Fusion. From here, you go into a Cherubini. Cherubini will dump Graff. Graff will special summon Seer. Now you will use the Instant Fusion to summon a Winda, which is a spellcaster, by the way. And so you'll link these 3 into a Curious. Seer will revive Cherubini, Curious will dump Harp, and then from here it's your standard Orcust play. And so just one monster to discard, and then Scorpio is a full Orcust combo. That is insane. And it only gets better from here. So let's move on to the next couple of combos. So there are 2 different ways that you can play out this hand of Scorpio and 2 other Burning Abyss monsters. You can either end on Apollousa Beatrice, or you can end on Cherubini plus Winda plus Dante, and then maybe that Dante hits a Harp Horror and it turns into full Orcust combo plus Winda. So let's go ahead and see how those combos work out. And so they both start by normal summoning the Scorpio, discarding one of the BA cards, going into Cobra, then searching your Instant Fusion, and then using your 2 Predaplants to go into Cherubini. Cherubini will dump Graff, Graff will summon Seer. I wonder how many times I've said that so far. Like, take a shot every. Let's play a drinking game. Take a shot every time Cherubini summons Seer in this video, or Graff summons Seer in this video. That'd be pretty funny. We'd be pretty drunk. Okay, moving on. So Then from here, we summon the Burning Abyss monster, the other one, go into Dante, instant fusion into Winda, and then from here, we just link all of them into Apollousa, see revive Dante, Dante add back Burning Abyss, discard to make Beatrice. So this can also be Apollousa Beatrice. But yeah, we could have just stopped here and then just let Winda win the game for us, just because Winda is so good. You have Cherubini protecting it, you have a Dante. So this is actually a pretty good board. And then if you have any other Burning Abyss in hand, you could just upgrade that into a Beatrice. And this would be a really high value Beatrice as well, because you'd have such good materials, especially the Seer. And so this could actually be a really good board, again, with that one other Burning Abyss. But you'd also maybe want to see what you mill with the Dante, because if you mill a Harp Horror, then that sets you up for your Orcust plays. But you want to mill before you summon the Winda, because obviously if you summon the Winda, you're not doing much afterwards. So you would mill before summoning the Winda, and if you hit a Harp Horror, then you would do some Orcust plays. So let's see what we get. 1, 2, 3. Okay, not a Harp. Yeah. But that would be something that you could do. Alright, so with 3 Burning Abyss monsters and a Scorpio, we have a couple of options. We could either end on Apollousa plus Galatea Crescendo. We could do the full Orcust combo with Winda. Or we can do the Curious Griffin play. Any of these would work. And where these combos really differ from the last ones are that now, because we have 3 Burning Abyss monsters, we're actually able to make Cherubini without using the Scorpio, which is really big for helping us keep extra different types on board, because the Predator Planets are plants versus Cherubini being fairy, the Burning Abysses being fiend. So that helps us make Curious a lot easier. And in actually all 3 of those different plays, we would be making Curious. And so I think we've done really similar combos to these so far, but let's just do the one with full Orcust combo and Winda. Just because we've done Apollousa, Galatea Crescendo a lot. We've seen Curious Griffin, I think, twice already, so let's not do that one again either, because it's pretty much the same. Like, once you get to this hand where I would quantify this as like 5 summons, that's kind of the boards you can make. Like, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this is the discard. So 1, 2, 3, because, itself, Cobra, Winda, and then 4, 5. So when you get the 5 summons, you're always going to be able to pretty much do the Galatea plus Apollousa board. You're always going to be able to do Curious Griffin board, and you're very likely going to be able to do an Orcust combo as well. But the only reason we can add the Winda on top of it in this case is because we're searching instant fusion. So the way the combo works is we're going to summon 2 Burning Abyss monsters, go into Cherubini. Cherubini will dump Graff. Graff will summon Seer. Next we summon Scorpio, activate the effect. Summon Cobra. Cobra searches instant fusion. So then from here, we can link these into Curious. See revive Cherubini, Curious dump Harp. And then, from here we have a regular Orcust board pretty much. Regular Orcust combo. And so, like the regular Orcust combo, and then we just instant fusion for Winda, and then protect it with the Dingirsu. So to not waste more time doing that, I think you guys would be good from here. Or you should be good from here. Alright, so for this one, we're going to be having Scorpio and then 4 other Burning Abyss monsters. One of them is just a discard. So it could be 3 monsters, then, a discard monster. But this is essentially 6 summons, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a discard. So with 6 summons, we're going to be able to end on Apollousa and then a full Orcust board. So this is actually a really good play. So the way this works, starts off similarly to the other ones, with a Cherubini, Graff, Seer, all that stuff. Then from here, we're going to summon one of them, then go into the Apollousa, which will revive the Cherubini. So that part we've seen before. This is pretty standard. But now we're going to summon the Scorpio, discard the final Burning Abyss monster to get Cobra, and then that will get our instant fusion. Then from here, we can link, or not link yet, and leave one of these zones open. I'm just trying to fit everything in the frame, but don't summon everything to Apollousa's link points, because we're going to instant fusion into a Winda. And then we can link these 3. And you can use either of the Predator Plant monsters, but into a Curious. Curious will dump Harp. Then Harp's effect, symbols. Symbols and Curious can go into Galatea. Then you can set Crescendo. And again, here we can either make a Dingirsu and then go into IP Masquerena, or we could continue the Orcust plays. Either one's going to work. Send those can go into Longirsu, banish Symbols, revive the Galatea, and then we can finish on Dingirsu here. And so again, we have 4 negates, we got protection for the board, played around Nibiru. We lose the Super Poly, but that's, yeah, we hard lose the Super Poly. Like, they would Super Poly away the 2 Orcust monsters, summon a Starving Venom and attack over Apollousa. That part actually sucks, but other than that, this is actually a pretty good board. Alright guys, I literally saved the best for last. This is the absolute nut board, and it isn't even that hard to draw into. You have 2 3-ofs and any 3 of like a 16 or 17 of. We have Harp Horror, Scorpio, and 3 Burning Abyss monsters. Harp is going to be the discard, so this is essentially a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 summon combo, plus having an Orcust play locked and loaded. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so the combo starts like any other one. Special summon 2 Burning Abyss monsters. Those are going to go into Cherubini. Cherubini dumps Graff. Graff summons Seer. And then because we're going to be ending on Apollousa, Beatrice, plus an Orcust board, we're going to summon the Burning Abyss and make a Dante, because we're not making Beatrice without Dante. Next, we're going to summon our Predaplant, discarding the Harp, activating the effect. Special summons Cobra. Cobra adds instant fusion. Then from here, we link away one of the Predaplants and then Dante into a Dark Link 2. So IP Masquerena works. Dante targets Seer, and Seer target Dante. So now we have Seer, instant fusion in hand. We have Cobra, IP Masquerena, Cherubini, and Dante on the board. Link away the IP Masquerena and the Cherubini into an Apollousa. And then now we can also make our Beatrice. Banish Harp from the graveyard. 2 special summon Symbol Skeleton. Symbols and Cobra can go into Galatea. And from here, we're just doing a regular Orcust board. And now we could activate the instant fusion to summon Winda. Winda and Galatea can go into Longirsu, Dingirsu, Symbols, revive Galatea, and then set the Crescendo. And so this could end up being your final board. Or again, we could do the IP Masquerena play here. So, you know, it works out either way, but we're going to be ending on Apollousa, Beatrice, Galatea, Crescendo, and Dingirsu protecting the whole thing. Alright, so this is it, guys. Apollousa, Beatrice, Dingirsu, Galatea, and Crescendo. So this was like pretty much the nut board. Probably one of the best boards that you can make in this deck. What you could do a little bit differently, if you wanted to, is you could also just, like you could end up making a Winda and leaving Winda on board with the Dingirsu instead of doing the Galatea Crescendo board. Or instead of the Beatrice, you could do that. And so you can really trade, you know, one of the things on board for a Winda if you wanted to have that in a certain matchup. You could also make IP Masquerena. But the point is that you have so many options when you have a hand like that. You have the option to go into, you know, your Beatrice defense. You can do Apollousa, you can do Orcust stuff. Again, you could definitely do Curious Griffin. You can do IP Masquerena stuff for Nightmare disruptions on the opponent's turn. There's so many things that you can do. And this deck really gives you the options to do them. And so again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one.